A very good morning, dear children. Today we will start with chapter 15, Sound. In this chapter, we are going to be learning four things. First, we will look at importance of vibration for sound. Second, importance of medium for sound. Sound produced in humans and sound generation by loudspeakers. So let us first start by knowing how can we see or how can we test the importance of vibration for the generation of sound. So we'll start with learning about vibration. This is a tuning fork. A tuning fork is made up of two prongs and a stem. Okay. Now if you're holding on to the stem and if the prongs are struck or if you strike on the prongs will get set into vibrations, which means that they will move into a periodic motion where they move forward and backward. Okay, so this is how it will move. It will move forward and backward. Okay, and that is when you say that they are vibrating. When they vibrate, what happens is that the air that surrounds the prong, it actually shows a motion. Okay, as you can see, there's a wave kind of a motion that you find in the air that surrounds the prong, and that vibration in the air brings about the sound onto our ears. So let us look at this one by one or in a stepwise manner. So this is what is happening. There are three pictures, first, second and third. Look at the first picture. If you look at the topmost part, it's showing you the air that is surrounding the prong and it is showing you the fork. Okay. So here in the first picture, the topmost part, the tuning fork is not struck. There is no forward or backward motion happening. When the prongs are not struck or when the fork is not moving, the air that is surrounding the fork is also not moving. Okay, that is why you see that all the lines which are there, they're actually representing the air molecules. All the air molecules, they are all evenly distributed. There is equal distance between two air molecules and there is no movement in them, no wave motion in them. Okay, look at the middle part. Now what is happening here is I have actually struck the prong. Now when I've struck the prong, I told you that it moves forward and backward. Now when it is moving backward, what is happening to the air molecules? The air molecules in the air, they are getting pushed away. Now when they are getting pushed away, at that time, because of the pushing of the prong, okay, what is going to happen? The air molecules in one region, they will all come together because the space in the air is becoming less for them. Okay, this is the area as they have marked it as A. If you look at that A region, what is happening? The air molecules, they are all becoming high, or the pressure of the air molecules are high in that region, the density is high in that region, and such a region is called as a compression. Okay, so in the middle part, in the middle picture, the region A is called as the compression. Compression means what? A region where the air molecules, they are higher in density and higher in pressure. Okay, now the B and the C region in that picture, the B and the C region, no motion is seen as such. I will tell you what is happening to it. Now if you look at the lowmost part of the picture, now what is happening to the tuning fork? It is moving forward. That means it's moving towards each other. So when the prong moves towards each other, what is happening to the air molecules? They are getting more space. So what happens to the air molecules? They become less in density and the pressure also becomes less in them. Okay, so when such a region is generated, you say that it is a rarefaction. When do you call it as being a rarefaction? Whenever the air molecules are less in density and less in pressure, low in density and low in pressure, you say that it's a rarefaction. But did you look at what has happened to the compression? From the region of A, it has moved to the region of B. Okay, so whenever there is forward and backward motions, there are continuous compressions and rarefactions which are formed, and these keep traveling throughout the air till it reaches into our ears, and that is how you have the wave motion seen. Okay, so look at this again. Okay, this is how the compressions which are made, they travel from one region to another till the time it reaches onto our ears. So there are compressions and rarefactions being formed. Okay, now here same thing they have shown, only difference is that they are showing you the high pressure and low pressure in the form of dots here. So if you start from the left hand side, wherever there are more dots seen, it just shows you that's a region of compression where there is high density and high pressure, and wherever you find less number of dots, it shows that it's a rarefaction or a region where there is low pressure and low density. Now one thing you have to understand is one compression and one rarefaction forms one cycle. Okay, so if you start from the left, I have one compression, one rarefaction, so this becomes one cycle. Again I have one compression, one rarefaction, so this becomes my second cycle. Again third, I have one compression, one rarefaction, so I have the third cycle. Again one compression, one rarefaction, so this is a fourth cycle. So if I just look at this sound that is there on my screen, I have a total of 4 cycles in this sound. Okay, now if in case I have 4 cycles in 1 second, I call it to be having a frequency of 4 hertz. What did I just now say? The number of cycles that a sound has in 1 second tells you about the frequency of the sound. If I have 1 cycle in 1 second, the frequency is 1. If I have 2 cycles in 1 second, the frequency is 2. If I have 3 cycles in 1 second, the frequency is 3. Here, as you can see on the screen, I have 4 cycles in a second, and that is why the frequency is 4. Okay, so how many cycles do you have in a second? That tells you the frequency of the sound. More the cycles per second, more will be the frequency. And when you say frequency, you say that it is hertz. Its unit is hertz. So if I say that I have 512 frequency, 12 hertz is a frequency, it simply means that I have 512 cycles in a second. So how many cycles do I have in a second? That will tell me the frequency of that sound, and it is normally measured in hertz or Hz or Hz. That is how you normally write it. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now, when you say that your frequency is changing, it basically tells you that your sound is changing. As this number of cycles are increasing, the frequency is increasing, the sound will keep changing. And as the sound changes, it gives rise to new notes. Sound notes are made. We know about musical notes, sa re ga ma pa dha, correct? So every frequency, every note has a different frequency. Like for example, sa has a frequency of 256, which means 256 cycles are there. When I say re, it has a frequency of 280. When I say ga, it has a frequency of 312. So every musical note has a different frequency. You must have seen the instruments which you're seeing on screen right now. Okay, there are musical instruments which have strings on it. Okay, how are you making different sounds? Are all the strings going to give you the same sound? No. Every string gives you a different sound. How is that? Because every frequency is different. If you look at these musical instruments which have strings on it, the length of the string is different. That means the thickness is different. As the thickness is changing, the frequency is changing, the vibrations are changing, the cycles are changing, and that is why the sound produced by each string is different. Similarly, if you look at those instruments, like if you look at the flute or if you look at Shehnai, they have air blown into pipes and the pipes have holes in it. Okay, how is the frequency changing? If you have seen anybody playing a flute, you will understand that these holes, some of the holes are closed, some of the holes are opened. So what happens when they are blowing in air? They close certain holes and open certain holes, because of which the length of the air column in these pipes are changing. And as the air column changes, the frequency also changes. That is how you have different sounds that are being made by these instruments. Now, just so that you want to learn about sound and about different frequency, it is not necessary you have an instrument at home. You can even make sounds, different sounds, by using glass cups. The method of producing different sounds by using glasses this technique is called as Jal Tarang. Now, how are you supposed to do this? In this, what you have to do is you have to take glass cups, okay, arrange it in a line, and you have to fill it up with water, but the water should be increasing in each cup. Okay, so as you change the cup, you have to keep increasing the amount of water which you are adding in the cup. And then what do? If you take a stick and you actually strike each cup in a sequence, you will find that the frequency or the sound that is made by each glass is different. Okay, now how is it becoming different? Because the air column which you have in each cup is different, and because the air column is different, the sound generated is also different. You are going to have numerous videos on YouTube which talks about or which shows this Jal Tarang, and it's very beautiful to listen to this. Okay, now we've finished with learning about vibrations. Now when we learned vibrations, we saw that there is tuning fork that vibrates. Okay, we saw that the strings are vibrating, the air columns, a vibration in the air columns, based on that you have different sounds generated. And we saw that because of these vibrations you have compressions, you have rarefactions, you have cycles, you have frequencies. So vibration is very much important. You need to have vibrations so that there are sounds generated. Now we are going to look at importance of medium. Is only vibration important? No. Along with vibration, medium is also very important. Let's look at that. For understanding, we are going to take a bell jar. We are going to do a bell jar experiment. Now obviously you must have understood why this is called as a bell jar, because it is in the shape of a bell. Okay, you have it in the form of a bell. Now in this you have three very important things. One obviously is a bell jar. Second is an electric bell. You have the bell in the center, which is obviously connected. And the last one you have is the vacuum pump. Okay, so we'll do the first part of the experiment. What are we going to do? First, we are going to switch on the vacuum pump. Now what are you going to do when you switch the vacuum pump? When you're switching the vacuum pump, what is a vacuum pump going to do? It's going to remove all the air that is there in the bell jar. It's going to suck everything out and it's going to create vacuum in it. Now what is vacuum? It is basically the absence of air. That is called as vacuum. So when I'm switching on the vacuum pump, all the air molecules that are there in the bell jar is going to get removed out completely, and now not a single air molecule is present in the bell jar. Now what do? Now I switch on the electric bell. Okay, so there is not a single air molecule in the bell jar, but the electric bell is vibrating. Do you think you will be able to listen to the sound? No. Why? Why is there absence of sound here? Because even though there is vibration seen in the electric bell, there are no molecules that can generate or create compressions and rarefactions. Because there are no compressions, no rarefactions, there is no cycle, there is no frequency, and no frequency means no sound. So, as I told you, vibration is not the only thing that is needed for sound. You also need a medium, and the medium here is air. Okay, it's not necessary that it should only be air, it can be water also. But there needs to be molecules which can actually transfer the vibration, and that is why medium is very important. Let's do the second part of the experiment. Here, what I'm doing now is I'm not doing anything to the vacuum pump. I'm switching off the vacuum pump. When I switch off the vacuum pump, what happens is air starts filling in the bell jar. So now what is happening? The bell jar is completely filled with air. There are air molecules in it. Okay? And now I switch on the electric bell. So obviously what is going to happen? The electric bell is going to vibrate. When the electric bell is vibrating, now you will be able to hear the sound. Why you will be able to hear the sound is mainly because there are molecules in the air which are going to generate regions of compressions and rarefactions. Because there are compressions, because there are rarefactions, there are going to be cycles. Because there are cycles, there will be frequency, and because there is frequency, you will be able to listen to the sound. So medium and vibration both are very, very important for sound to be heard. So these are the two experiments which basically help you understand that vibration and medium both are important for sound to be generated. Okay. Now we learned about the first two. Now we'll go on to the third part, that is sound produced in humans. Now I told you vibration is very important. Medium is also very important. Correct? So let's see how exactly are we be able as humans, how are we producing the sound? In humans, sound is produced in a part called as the larynx. Okay, it's basically the upper end of the windpipe. In the larynx, you have two vocal cords which are stretched across the voice box, or voice box means larynx. So you have the vocal cord that are there are two vocal cords. They are placed with a very little space between both of them. Okay. Now what happens when you're breathing in air? Okay. So the lungs is going to force the air through these vocal cords, especially the place in between them. So what is happening when the lungs is forcing out air through these vocal cords? The vocal cords are vibrating, and that vibration of the vocal cord is producing the sound. There are muscles also which are attached to the vocal cords, which actually help to make the cords a little tight or a little loose, based on which the type or the quality of the voice is going to be different. Okay, vocal cords actually have different length in male and in female. In vocal cords, the male vocal cords length is 20. In females it is 15. In children it is even more smaller. That is why you understand the voice of male, female, children, they are all different. That's because the vocal cord length is different. Okay, so as the vocal cords are vibrating, and because of the air that is coming out, vibration is also there, medium is also there, and that is how humans are able to speak, or there is sound being generated. Okay. Now coming to sound generation by loudspeakers. You must have seen loudspeakers being used in various places. Okay, let's look at the internal structure of the loudspeaker to understand how exactly is sound produced. So this is the internal structure of the loudspeaker. Here you have permanent magnet. Now if you look at the permanent magnet here, it is in the shape of E, the letter E. Okay, so just because it's marked only at the upper end, that does not mean it's limited over there. It's the entire part of it. Okay, the second part of this is the coil. Now this coil which is there, it is wound around the permanent magnet. Okay, and this is a place where you have the current flowing through it. Okay, and you have the screen. So these are the three main parts of your loudspeaker that you need to know. That is a permanent magnet, the coil, and the screen. These are the three main things. Okay, now whenever you switch on, whenever you are switching on the electric current, what is going to happen? The current starts flowing through the coil. Now when the current starts flowing through the coil, it generates the magnetic field. So depending upon the magnetic field, what happens is the coil starts moving back and forth. So it's going to keep vibrating. There's a vibration that is seen in the coil because of the current flowing through it and because of the magnetic field that is being created in the coil. Okay, now how much fast is it going to move? What is going to be the frequency of its movement will depend upon the current that is flowing through the coil. More the current, more will be the vibration, or more will be the frequency. Now, as the coil is moving, what happens to the screen? The conical screen of the loudspeaker that is attached to it, that also starts moving back and forth. Okay, and because of this movement, the sound is generated in the or through the loudspeaker. Okay, so if you actually hold on, whenever there's a loudspeaker, just if you hold on to the screen of the loudspeaker, you can actually understand the vibration on the screen. Okay, it's that vibration that actually helps in creating the sound through the loudspeaker. Okay, I hope that whatever was done today was clear to everyone. It is important that you read this 15 chapter so that you understand it. It's very simple, but still it's important that you read the chapter very well. Okay, thank you.